Hello, thank you for watching in. Welcome to this, the fifth in our series of midweek reflections for Lent from St. Paul's, Glenageary. Today we reflect on facing death. Recently a parishioner was in touch because he was making his funeral arrangements and he wanted some clarification on one option he was considering. Thankfully he had not received a poor diagnosis. Indeed, he is in good health and fully intends to be around for some time yet. He was just being practical, and I commended him for his foresight and thoughtfulness. I believe this is something we should all do, no matter what age we are. It makes life so much easier. When you die, it is a source of great comfort and relief to those left behind that they know for certain that they're carrying out your wishes. Cremation or burial, preferred venue for the service, choice of music, readings, poems. It's hard enough for your family and friends to come to terms with the fact that you will no longer be physically around without them having the additional stress and worry of wondering afterwards if they did the right thing, because your funeral arrangements were not something that were ever discussed. So if you've not already done so, I urge you to leave your written funeral instructions with someone you trust, or at least leave them in a place where you know they will be found when the time comes. There is one certain thing in life, and that is death. It is something we all face. Death is inevitable. Through my ministry, I have met people who have approached death with no fear whatsoever, in the sure and certain hope of a future life with God. But not everyone is so confident. I've also been in situations where the possibility of death has apparently not even been acknowledged, let alone spoken about, even when it's obviously imminent, and that brings its own difficulties and challenges. I suppose the danger is that the anticipation of death can blight the present. Fear of the nature of death, whether it be sudden or sharp or prolonged and difficult, is another cause of deep concern. I've often said there's nothing like a good heart attack to end it all, quick and decisive, and I say that coming from a family with a history of heart disease. However, I recently reached the same age that my father was when he died suddenly of a heart attack, and now I'm no longer so flippant. I feel I am still relatively young. There's much I would still like to do. I would prefer to be around for another while yet. And that is probably why the subject of death remains such a taboo for many people. We know it's inevitable. We certainly become more conscious of it as we get older, but we always think that it's never going to happen until some time in the future. Reason always battles to control the range of untidy emotions that the prospect of death evokes. The Christian faith has been consistent in its confidence in a future life beyond the confines of this one. Indeed, all the great religious traditions subscribe to some version of continuity or new life after death. Christians, theoretically at any rate, do not believe in continuity, as if the soul lives on after the body has died. They believe in resurrection, a new life, a spiritual body raised from the utter deadness of the grave. The Apostle Paul tried to explain what is essentially a mystery when he wrote of the human body being sown a physical body and raised a spiritual body. Just as a seed in the field, what you sow does not come to life unless it first dies. Christians base their confidence on the unique and unrepeatable event of the resurrection of Jesus, which completely reversed the tragic narrative of crucifixion and replaced it with a narrative of irrepressible life. Although that is the nature of Christian belief, it does not follow that every believer necessarily accepts this. And not surprisingly, I have been asked over the years, do I believe in an afterlife? Is there such a place as heaven? Will we be reunited with loved ones who predeceased us if we get there? Having said that, I've probably not been asked that question as much as you might expect. I suspect that's because many don't want to admit that they're not sure if they believe in things that have been part of Christianity for such a long time. To be honest with you, I too am agnostic about such things. I am one who does not know. If heaven does exist, it's certainly not located somewhere high above the clouds. It's often portrayed as a perfect paradise where the sun shines permanently and everyone is perpetually happy. I cannot imagine anything worse. And even if I were eligible, I would probably turn down the invitation to go to such a place. I do not know what happens after death. I also do not know for certain that there is no afterlife. It must be over 30 years now since I first sat and listened to someone tell me about their recent near-death experience, of going through a tunnel, of moving towards a very bright light, the experience of leaving his body and seeing things from a vantage point outside the body, of being torn between whether to go towards the light or to go back to his body lying on the operating table. Such experiences have been consistently reported over the years and are well documented. But who knows what this means? Other questions we may have asked ourselves include, is our personal identity preserved in an afterlife? Are there family reunions? And if so, could that come as good or bad news? Let's be honest, there are deceased family members we never want to meet again because they were a source of pain and suffering to us. Does an afterlife mean we'd be stuck with these people forever? Do any of the relationships we have now continue? As mentioned earlier, St. Paul contrasts two kinds of bodies, a physical body and a spiritual body. He uses an image that speaks of both continuity and discontinuity between the two. The seed becomes the plant, but think how different the full-grown plant is from the seed. Apparently, Martin Luther had two things to say on this subject. Firstly, that the afterlife is God's business, so he did not have to worry about it. And secondly, that we can know as little about life after death as a baby travelling down the birth canal can know about the world the baby is about to enter. Personally speaking, I have no idea if there is an afterlife or what it would be like if there is one. But I am confident that the one who has buoyed us up in life will also buoy us up through death. We die unto God. What more that means, I do not know, but that is all I need to know. I believe there is an increasing tendency in our society today to shy away from death, to try and minimize its impact and its finality, seen in the frequent use of terms such as passed away or fell asleep. We do not always know what to say to bereaved people, and they will sense if we're trying to avoid them. Mere presence or touch are often much more important than words, as is a meal left at the front door. The greatest gift we can give to our loved ones is a good death, one in which we live fully in the present, remembering the past with gratitude and looking to the future with quiet assurance, trying always to be open and honest with each other. A good death requires patience and courage and the handing over of our lives to the one who has loved us and who will go on loving us from eternity to eternity.